Hello everyone and welcome back to This Week in Mythic Plus. Now this week we have Raging, Necrotic, and Tyrannical. What this really adds up to is a very tough week, especially on healers and on tanks, and this is the first time we see Necrotic in a while. Now let's go over the affixes, how they combine together, and what we can do to combat them. Raging, what it boils down to is when a mob is below 30% HP, they're going to be doing increased damage. Necrotic means that heals are going to be less effective, you're going to have a stacking debuff on you if you are the tank. And Tyrannical applies only to boss mobs, they're going to have more HP and do more damage. So since this week is going to be heavier on tanks than on any other roles, let's go over what they have to do first. Now for tanks, it's very important to do burst threat, so as soon as you run into a mob, try to get as much threat as possible. That means if you have any DPS cooldowns, use them as soon as you run into a mob, pick up threat. Once your stacks are about 15 to 20 for Necrotic, you do want to run out and start kiting that pack. Now the best way to kite a pack is to snare everything and use a movement ability to move away. And as soon as your Necrotic debuff wears off, you want to run back in, get more threat, and then start kiting again when your stacks get to 15 to 20. Now since we also have Raging this week, what that means is that when a pack of mobs all falls below 30% HP, they're going to be extremely deadly. So regardless of having stacks or not having stacks, as long as you still have aggro on that group of mobs, keep kiting them because you can still die by running back into that mob. One big thing to note about Necrotic is that Leech actually goes through the Necrotic affix, so if you have a Fang of Tichondrius or any gear that really has Leech on it, then go ahead and use it this rotation because it's going to help you stay in the fight longer, do more damage, and keep more threat. Now for all of the DPSers out there, this week you should be saving your AoE stuns for when all of the mobs are below 30% HP. What this is going to do is it's going to help the tank take less damage if he's in there, and going to enable the tank to kite more effectively. Something else that DPS should be helping with is actually snaring the mobs. Not every tank has a reliable AoE snare, so if the DPS can help out by picking up a different talent point or using a different ability, even if it impacts DPS a little bit, snaring and kiting is the name of the game this week, so DPS should be helping out if they can. Lastly, DPS should not be shy with using DPS cooldowns this week. Trash is going to be your biggest issue in any Mythic Plus, so you shouldn't be holding on and saving your DPS cooldowns for bosses, since the biggest threat this week is going to be trash. So again, use your cooldowns when they're up and try to snare as much as possible. Now for the healers, if you also have snares and stuns, they are going to be very beneficial this week. So since you're monitoring your tank, if his stacks get a little too high, try to help out by throwing out a snare or a stun, and that could be the difference between life and death. Also, if your tank gets between 20 to 25 or higher stacks of Necrotic, then you shouldn't try to go trying to heal him. His stacks are way too high, and actually something that'll help out more is tossing out a stun rather than trying to heal him. Constant communication with your tank is going to be key this week. If your tank isn't looking at his or her stacks, then you can help out by monitoring those as well. This week is going to be about an 8.5 out of 10 in difficulty, especially for some tanks. I know Death Knights have it a lot tougher this week than other tanks, and that's just because their playstyle leans over to healing, which is being countered by Necrotic, and their mobility is actually really low. So all in all, to sum up this week, you have to know how to kite, how to chain stun, and how to have burst threat. DPS should be helping with staring and stunning as much as they can. Your heals should also be watching your stacks of Necrotic as much as they can, helping out with snaring and helping the tank run out. And if you have Leech gear, this week is the perfect week since it combats Necrotic. And if a pack of mobs is below 30% HP, whether you have Necrotic stacks or not, you probably shouldn't run back in there as a tank. And that wraps it up for this week in Mythic Plus. If you guys enjoy my content, want to help support the channel directly, go ahead and visit my Patreon down below. There are different tiers that reward different things, so go ahead and take a look at that. And as always, good luck out there.